Hi there, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Hope you've enjoyed the talk so far. So today I'm going to talk about cockroach monitoring. I'll just share my screen. We're going to talk about cockroach traps and IPM. So cockroaches are quite a close thing to my heart because I've done quite a lot of treatments, both in domestic and industrial sort of settings, and they can be quite challenging sometimes. So, it's always good to have a bit of a refresher on how to tackle these sorts of situations. So, yeah, we'll run through this. So we're going to look at trap placements, to trap or not to trap. That is the question. Placement, where are you putting traps? Also baiting strategies as well, and the use of actual bait guns. Other control methods that people don't really consider, and a little bit of IPM as well, so integrated pest management, trying to make it as difficult for these insects to survive and thrive in our environment. So there's things that we can do to try and drive the numbers of insects down, make it less comfortable for them. So, saying to trap or not to trap. Whenever you're faced with a situation where you've got cockroaches, it's important really to first and foremost identify them. What species are they? Um, you would trap if they are covered for it in their contract. So if they're contracted for cockroaches, you would put cockroach monitors down. Even if they're not, I would still throw the odd, occasional cockroach monitor into my site in and around areas where they could potentially be transported in. So places like kitchens, in their storerooms, locker rooms are really important. The number of times that cockroaches have been transported in from someone's house into their place of work is quite incredible. They'll take things like packed lunches, changes of clothes, bags into the locker room with cockroaches in them. I got called to a school in Liverpool where the kids were bringing cockroaches to school. It was a bit like bring a pet to school day. So yeah, um, that then infested the kitchen. If the site's got a history of infestation, so if it's in an area where there's a high prevalence of activity, so I'm thinking of things like oriental cockroaches, where you've got them in the drains, um, botanical gardens, where you could potentially have um, Australian or American cockroaches brought in tropical plants or exhibits that have been brought into the zoo. Um, if goods are being brought in from various locations, so if they're being, I'm thinking of a typical food factory, they'll have ingredients, packaging coming in from different sources round about the country or even abroad. So cockroaches can be shipped in with goods, so it's important to identify pretty quickly if they're being brought in. If the site has seen an unusual insect, they've killed it, crushed it, and then thrown it out, not kept the specimen for you. Again, I've been called to sites where they've gone, oh, we think we've got oriental cockroaches. Why? Because it's a large black beetle, and you get there and you go, no, it was a devil's coach horse. That's what it was. Um, if um, if placed, let's say, place them in locker rooms wherever you can, people can bring them in. Um, don't place traps down if there's high levels of cockroaches already present because you're just wasting your time. You know that they're there, you can identify what species they are, and it'll just be costing you money in traps. They'll fill up very quickly, and they can't be used as a control strategy. Yeah, they're to monitor the effectiveness of the treatment, but also the spread. So I'm thinking about a multi-story block of flats. I've done lots of them throughout my time, and you would monitor every single house to find where the focal points of infestation are, and then you would monitor it at the end of the treatment to see the success that you've been having with your treatment application of insecticide. Um, don't forget to monitor at high levels, especially when it comes to things like brown banded or German cockroaches. And when use when there's a possible of pest migration as well. So it could be that there's infested sites round about. They could then migrate through the block into the establishment that you're looking after or treating. So these are the kind of things to think about. Also, if you're baiting, you want them to carry the bait back to the actual harbourage area and defecate. So you don't want to trap them because they're doing some work for you. As I said before about the different species, thinking in three dimensions when it comes to cockroaches. So your American, Australian, Oriental, those will be in sort of basement areas, drains. So you've got to think you've got to think about where the drainage systems are within the building. So it's good to get a map of the sewer system or drainage systems that run underneath the buildings, and also treat in and around the drains where possible with baits. The other thing to think about is oriental cockroaches, they can survive outside over winter under things like ivy. So removal of vegetation is a good means of control as well. You don't want them surviving outside and then coming in indoors. And when we're thinking about German cockroaches and brown bandy, they have a rollum, so they've got these sucker pads on their feet, so they can climb up smooth surfaces, things like glass, steel, and plastic splashback on walls, so they can get to these high areas. So whenever you're monitoring, you've got to think about high level monitoring as well. Things like cable trays and things like that within factories above false ceiling tiles in office blocks and stuff like that. That's also got to be considered. So traps, they really we try and exploit the behaviour of the cockroach. Why are they going in there? Well, they're going in to try and seek some harbourage. There'll be a lure on it as well. This is generally a food attractant. You tend to find that pheromones, they have tried to isolate them before. They're quite volatile. They're not as good as a food attractant. Food attractants have been proven to be far better than any sort of pheromone-based lure. So they would be placed in the areas where you would expect to find them. So if I was doing a typical block of flats, I'd have one in the bathroom, kitchen, and electrical cupboard, because the wiring will run through the building, the pipework will be there. The cockroaches will be able to migrate from one flat to another. Also, with flats, you'll find that where the plumbing is joined in, there'll be holes in and around waste pipes where you can get pest migration from one apartment to another. So it's worth putting insect monitors in these areas. Under sinks, backs of refrigerators, you've got a condensate tray at the back of that refrigerator where water will go into it and it will evaporate. That'll provide a source of water for cockroaches, especially Germans. They love to be in close proximity to a water source. So get them at the back of the refrigerator. It's less likely to be disturbed there by the tenant as well. So you'll be able to collect large numbers of cockroaches in these areas. So think like a cockroach. Try to think about the pest that you're trying to treat. German cockroach adults and nymphs are captured. So while they're running along these floor wall edges, they tend to follow the structural edges of the building. So we've got people talk about thigmotaxis with rodents. They like to keep one side of their body to the wall. Cockroaches also have a similar behavior where they like to follow these floor wall edges using their antennae to navigate round about their site. So placing it at floor wall junctions is a good idea. You'll trap roaches in that manner. And with any design of trap, cockroach trap, you'll find that it acts as a pitfall trap, but it also lures them in. There'll be very sticky glue within there that will stop the cockroaches escaping once they've got in, and a food attractant tablet in the middle. And the ramps are 30 degrees. You tend to find that this leading edge of the trap is either roughened or you get a sticky mat, a mat that you have to put onto it. So it's like a felt mat. If anybody's ever used a hoi hoi trap, you've got a little welcome mat that you have to stick over the front of it. That's to allow oriental cockroaches to get access into the trap and get stuck. If you didn't put that on the trap, then the cockroach can't enter it because it'll be too slippy for them to gain access in. Our traps, however, have roughened edges, so that allows easy access for any species of cockroach to go into. And this is a pre-baited trap here with, you can see large numbers of German cockroaches. And they can't be used as a control measure, as I've said before. It's merely to assess the levels of treatment, the levels of activity, the spread of the actual cockroaches, and how successful your control methods are. So you tend to find that the glue in these traps is very soft, so the actual insects, when they crawl onto it, will adhere to it. It needs minimal contact pressure, so it's been designed in such a manner that they'll get stuck to it as soon as they go in. And of course, when you've got large numbers of cockroaches within the trap, um, they'll start to excrete aggregation pheromone, especially in the feces. That's where the aggregation pheromone is within German cockroaches. And mandibular glands and anal glands as well produce aggregation pheromone. So we put these tablets onto the trap to lure them in. Um, if you can get some types of traps that are pre-baited, they smell a bit like banana. That smells a bit like Chinese curry powder. It's got quite a distinct smell to it. Be careful with these tablets if you're using them within a food site. Um, if they fall out of your pocket or they're left somewhere, they could be perceived as being yeah, it could end up within product as a physical contaminant. And of course, people don't know what they are, so people may think it's a prescription medicine. So be careful when you're putting these and carrying them around your site. This is, would you use traps in this situation? Just see if this will play. So I've been into quite a few residential properties when it's been in this sort of state, and you've got cockroaches crawling up the walls, across the ceilings, falling onto the housing officer's head. Um, there's no need really to put any monitors down in this situation. They're just, it's quite blatant what they are, that they're everywhere. And this is due to the carrying capacity of the environment that they're in. There's plentiful harborage, there's lots of food, there'll be water present within the sink in the dirty dishes. There's probably pets there as well. So yeah, they've got ample opportunity to survive in this type of environment. There's black specks all over the draining board. That's cockroach feces or fecal pellets. The Americans term these as fecal focal points. So where you've got large amounts of drop-ins, there'll be high levels of aggregation pheromone within there. Once you've got this flat cleaned, if and eradicated of cockroaches, if you do not remove the fecal contamination, the cockroaches will just gravitate back into those areas again. In terms of putting gel down, I wouldn't even bother in this situation. I would try a different strategy because the population numbers are so high. Oops, slide. There we are. So baits function by providing an alternative and desirable food to target pest. There has been some sort of behavioural resistance to cockroach gel in recent years where if it's got a carbohydrate content in it that they don't particularly like, they will shy away from it and not eat. In the situation that we've seen before, if you're putting gel down, it will be in vain because there's so much alternative food there. So you want to remove, restrict other food that's available. Um, the female will carry the bait within her digestive system back into the harbourage areas and excrete that. First and second instar nymphs, they feed on the feces. This is termed as coprophagy, where they're eating the feces. They do this for bacterial transfer to help their gut, but also it stops them being predated on or killed when they're out wandering around. So getting them to take it back in gives you that cascade effect. But this was a cockroach that I was hand feeding, and I've hand fed quite a lot of cockroaches. That's a good way to tell whether or not the bait is quite desirable. So this is an oriental cockroach in a food factory that I was feeding, and I've fed German cockroaches within blocks of flats straight from the actual tip of the syringe. They'll come up and quite readily take it from it. Think about where you're placing bait. If it's too warm, then you'll find it'll liquefy or it'll dry up very quickly. So it needs to be palatable, so it needs to remain moist for them to consume it. If you're putting bait in a very cold area, you'll find that that will repel the cockroaches. They won't want to go into these areas and feed there. So again, that's an important thing to consider whenever you're placing bait. Costs a lot of money, so you don't want to be wasting it. So effective control depends on bait placement, so that's important. We said before, think like the pests, or think like the cockroach. Try get it deep into the harbage areas where you're finding all of these sort of fecal contamination, these fecal focal points. That's where you'll have the largest numbers there. So placing it directly in there will optimize your chance of consumption and also control. And placement as well will also save money. If you're placing it in the wrong areas, you're just putting bait down in vain, and it will cost you or your company a lot of money. Bait in exposed areas, said before about cockroaches, they're quite cryptic, they're photophobic, they don't like to come out into the light, so you want to be putting it deep into the harbage areas. You'll get better bait consumption. Um, Applying bait, just doing it using a syringe plunger isn't really the best means of administering it, because trying to tell how much you're putting down is almost impossible. You have to visually see it to know how much you're putting down. And trying to get the same size drop or a gram of bait every time would be quite difficult. And said, if we're trying to get it into the harborages, you don't want to be seeing it. So you'd be better off with a proper calibrated bait gun, so that you can get the correct amount administered every time. So do these look the same? To most people, yeah, they look very similar in size. So, but there is differences. Top one is the proper administered weight of bait, and it's 0.25 grams. And then underneath, this has been done by hand, and it weighs 0.4 grams. People may go, that's it's not a lot of difference. It's I'm still getting the bait down and all the rest of it. But when it comes to costs, that's when it really adds up, and the amount of bait that you've got to apply. So if you're doing a block of flats, you want to be able to administer as much of this as possible in the given locations. So if you put down the correct amount in a 30-gram syringe of bait, you'll get 120 25-gram blobs of bait. However, if you're just doing it by eye, and you managed by luck to get sort of these 45-gram splodges, you'll get 75 droplets from a 30-gram syringe. So when you're doing something like maybe 120 houses or blocks of flats within a high rise, it soon adds up. So you can see here, this is the potential loss financially from one tube of bait. So something like Addict costs around about 50 odd pound. You'd be losing £17.96 in bait placements. So it adds up. And if, like I said, if you're doing 120 houses, if you extrapolate that out, your top line off your job will be reduced quite significantly. You won't be earning as much or able to get as many placements done. So you're not getting your value for money. So I would always use a calibrated gun where you can actually set the dosage using this meterage sort of knob at the back. You can twist it around, and that there will give you the correct administered amount of gel bait. And of course, with regards to legislation, we don't want to be over applying insecticide. It's illegal to do so. So you want to be ensuring that you're doing it correctly. One of the things to be mindful of is the steel syringe tips. When using that in and around electrical equipment, it can be quite dangerous. You can get plastic tips. I would always advise using plastic tips if you're ever going anywhere near electrical equipment. It looks more professional as well. I've seen people turning up with a biro and sticking it into the end of the syringe, trying to force the last droplet of bait out. And the customer must be thinking to themselves, wow, this guy's really professional. And of course, it's all over the pen, which you're then touching at some point. This is such an underrated method of control, and I don't know many companies that utilize it, but if I was going into a heavily infested site, one of the first things I'd be doing is using a vacuum cleaner to remove large swathes of the population. Once they're sucked into this vacuum cleaner, they'll get killed just through the sheer trauma of being sucked into a vacuum cleaner. Also, you're removing allergens as well. If you remember back to your training, cockroaches will cause asthma within people because of the dust that's created from their feces and when they're molting. So when they're getting rid of the exoskeleton, dust is created and can cause allergic reactions within people. So using a vacuum cleaner is good. It'll remove food sources as well. So it'll start to pick up food debris as well, which is roundabout. It's easily transported. So you can strap it onto your back and go in and out of different areas and vacuum up large numbers. Gives immediate results for the client as well. So they can see that the population's drastically dropped. It saves money on product as well, so you're not putting down as much insecticide. You can be more targeted in your approach, and it gives the client immediate relief. They're not seeing these cockroaches running around as much. And diatomaceous earth, I would always use that wherever possible into harbourage areas. So where you've got two kitchens that, within blocks of flats that are back to back, they'll share the same plumbing. So the waste pipes will go through the wall into the soil stack to get drained away. There'll be a cavity in there, so you can get diatomaceous earth into these cavities, and as long as it remains dry, the cockroaches it'll keep killing. Because of its mode of action, there's no resistance. So when they're crawling through it, they pick up the dust. It takes away that waxy cuticle, causes dehydration, and yeah, it just keeps killing. So it's very good. Can be applied using a bulb duster or bellow duster or something like that. So yeah, the other thing to think about, people go, oh, this is a great product. It's non-toxic. You can end up with silicosis through breathing in things like anamorphous silica dioxide or diatomaceous earth. So I would always wear RPE whenever applying this stuff. Try to think about the environment as well, so environmental management. Try to reduce food availability, alternative sources, especially when you're baiting. So this is actually a Michelin star restaurant, and you can see that their cleaning is a bit subject. They'll probably say, yeah, that's just this morning's, but there's chips there. They're not going to be frying chips, and all this grease is all caked in, so it's been there for a significant period of time. You've got a wall cavity here, which leads into a restaurant next door as well, so they back onto each other. So if you get cockroach infestation within this area, it can quite quickly get out of hand. They'll migrate through the wall. If you're doing domestics, ensuring that they're cleaning up all the dishes the night before, removing any sort of food residue that's there for them, and remove any pet food and water sort of dishes for them, because the cockroaches, they're omnivorous, they'll feed on anything, so they'll come out and feed on pet food as well. Ensure that refuge sacks are being removed at the end of the night and disposed of, that any sort of recycling food waste bins are properly closed so that they can't get access into it, and also clean the bases of the bins as well. We don't want any residues left on there. One of the things about Cockroaches, especially Germans, they love to be in close proximity to a water source. So whenever you've got condensate or sweating on pipes, that will provide a water source for them. So try to lag pipes wherever possible. So that's a good strategy to try and minimize availability of water for them. And also get rid of any sort of sponges which are these look quite funky. They'll be full of food residue and water. At night they'll come out and they'll feed from that as well. So trying to restrict any sources of water is a good thing. And in terms of sort of more integrated pest management strategies, identify the severity, locality of the infestation. That lets you know how much product you're going to need prior to implementing any sort of plan. What's the best way to attack it? Do we go in with vacuum cleaners first and remove large swathes of them? um, Inspection, use flushing agents. So you can use natural pyrethroid in an aerosol if you're going in and out of flats and you want to assess quickly whether or not they're present. Go to the key areas, backs of the refrigerators, electrical equipment. They'll be in and around there. I've even found cockroaches in the display screen of microwaves where they've been trapped and died inside there. So have a look around about all the electrics. Um, do night inspections. So some companies may want night inspections put on contract. So things like hospitals or large food establishments, I've done night inspections in them before. uh, Evaluate. So use your monitors, get them dispersed to try and intercept cockroaches at an early stage, so that you can start to take remedial action very quickly. That means that you'll be causing less disturbance to your client, but also putting down less product for yourself, especially if you've got them on contract. You want to, maximize your profit. If you're having to use lots of bait, lots of product, it's going to cost you. However, identify it quickly, you can get it sort of nipped in the bud very quickly. Do regular follow-ups as well, and keep replenishing bait. Otherwise, you will end up with treatment failure. If you remember, with Oriental cockroaches, you've got that 3 month lag where you think you've got it under control, and then it rears its head again. That's because the eutheca have been deposited somewhere, and then it's burst open, and then it all starts again. So do follow-ups. Treatment. So there's no single tool that you can use. There's no silver bullet here. You need to have a multifaceted approach to controlling cockroaches, and use everything within your sort of toolbox. Thank you. Any questions, anybody?
Thank you very much, John. Thank you for your talk today on cockroaches. So we do have a question that's coming at the moment around licensing. So as you know, in the UK, we've had the Glue Traps and Offensive Act 2022 came in for England sort of last year. Obviously, Wales have been banned as well. And we've seen a lot now around people rebranding glue boards, glue traps
Yeah.
as insect traps. So do you feel that there is the potential there that we may come under more restrictions using sort of our insect traps in the future, or do you feel we're fairly sort of safe in that respect?
I think at the moment we're safe, but I think if people are going to be buying sort of rodent glue books that have been rebranded as insect traps, I think they will have a close look at it, and then in the future, the onus will probably be put back to the manufacturer to make changes to it to prevent mice getting stuck to it. Yeah. Mice
Yeah.
will actually go onto cockroach traps and consume cockroaches. They take the head off them and consume them. So there is always a danger that mice can get stuck onto these larger insect traps. So you've got to be careful about that.
So, yeah, so I guess that comes down to our placement as well. If you are treating rat, if you are treating mice and cockroaches, maybe adjust your placement accordingly, so you don't want to get caught out accidentally under sort of any sort of animal welfare laws and stuff as well.
Yeah.
Um, we have had a request. Are you able to go back onto your slide and show the dose size and cost differences? Neil is looking to try and get a new toy out of his boss.
Yes,
So
certainly.
and if you've got any, so what product was it that you were using? Was that the multi-dose
Yeah,
that you're
it's the
using to administer
B&G.
that with?
It's the B&G multi-dose, yeah. So that shows you the different size beads of gel that's administered at the different settings. Um, so obviously, when you look at the different cockroach gels, it'll tell you how much of the bait to place per meter squared, what dose it should be applied at, and you can see here that yeah, the difference here in cost. So you're losing quite a lot of money by over applying the actual poison. So that,
No, yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, I think I actually had a multi-dose when I was doing a lot of my field work as well, and they were quite handy tools actually. And yeah, definitely if you can save money, then obviously that's even better, isn't it? Without sort of that over application as well.
yeah,
Um,
looks more professional. Your finger doesn't always fit down the entire length of the syringe. Yeah,
don't you just use a factory pen? Isn't that what we're all meant to be doing? Is
yeah,
using factory pens to administer cockroach gel?
yeah.
Um, no, wonderful. Well, thank you again. Thank you again for Pelsis sponsoring the World Pest Day Forum as well. Appreciate your talk. Obviously, if we get any more questions come in, I'm sure you're always more than happy to answer them as well if anyone has any more questions. Thank you again.
Thank you, everybody.